Now, if you are in your late 30s and early 40s and you found yourself throwing your hard-earned money on everything like clothes, makeup, jewelry, house decor, and what else? A renovation, party, travel, and it is more than your usual baseline, you are probably trying to feel joy and happiness that you once did, and now you're unable to feel those emotions. And even when you do, you are not able to sustain them for a long period of time. So you end up chasing that dopamine hit, and you do that by, and I was there, by ending up opening Amazon boxes, or bringing home latest shopping spree, or touring new towns, traveling. But the feeling of that joy, where you're actually not just joy, just feeling anything, is very, very short lived, and then your mind goes back to just feeling numb. If that's you, let's talk about perimenopause induced depression. Now, how do I know this? I'm a woman in midlife myself who had to figure this part out the hard way. I'm Dr. Sophia Karen. I'm a clinical lab scientist by training with 2 decades of experience in cell and gene therapy. First, we need to establish if perimenopause or menopause women are at higher risk of new onset depression. So, what does the research tell us? A 2024 meta-analysis, now this type of analysis, the highest tier of analysis, involved over 9,000 women across 7 countries, and they found that perimenopausal women face a 40% higher risk of new onset depression compared to their premenopausal counterpart. Now, as a reminder, the premenopausal group are the group from starting their periods to all the way when they enter perimenopause. So that will be around mid 30s, late 30s. Um, so in this study, the link appeared biologically tied to estrogen decline affecting neurotransmitters. And the study again suggested that the perimenopause is the most vulnerable phase for depression onset. And there are other studies that showed the same results. So we can reasonably assume or reasonably state that the women in perimenopause phase have increased risk of developing new or recurrent depression. And the neurosciences studies also showed very clearly that the estrogen have receptors in different areas of the brain, such as pituitary and hypothalamus, and that can affect a wide range of neurotransmitters like serotonin and norepinephrine. So just a quick reminder, neurotransmitters, they are chemical messengers that transmit signals between nerve cells in the brain or between nerve and other parts of the body, and they're very important in regulating mood, sleep, and all the other bodily functions. So far, whatever we have discussed is not controversial, and pretty much everyone agrees that peri and menopausal women are at the highest risk of developing depressive symptoms. Now, the next step in doing this in a scientific way would be to establish causation between the decline in sex hormones with increased risk of depression. Or, in other words, we need to pinpoint exactly what changes happen during the perimenopause and menopause that causes those depressive symptoms. And that exactly where proverbial shit hits the fan, because the results of many studies trying to pinpoint exactly what's changing in perimenopause menopausal women's body that's causing the depression, the results for that is all over the place. Now, some studies show the decline in estradiol induced depression. Other studies show that's the fluctuation and the irregular pattern of estradiol that may increase vulnerability to mood disorders. Some studies show that it's the steady increase of FSH, the follicle stimulating hormones, causing the problem. The other study show that the changes in testosterone is a culprit. So it is safe to say that this part of the research is still in progress, and it will take some time to get sorted out. So meanwhile, when all this is happening, people are doing different studies, trying to kind of narrow down the causes of the depression, perimenopause, menopause phase of women. Some scientists decide to just examine the effectiveness of estrogen in the treatment of depression in perimenopausal women. In other words, they directly are looking into the impact of the hormone replacement therapy on a new onset depression in perimenopause, menopause, and that is where the scientific community seems to converge back and seems to be on the same page and show reasonable consensus that when HRT is administered to a demographic that is prone to depression or is going through a depression, it sees favorable outcomes. So these scientists are trying to determine what happens when women are given their hormones back, specifically estrogen. So that's where things get interesting. I will talk about two important studies in this area, and there are many, but they're all pointing in the same direction. So the first study has 34 women with perimenopausal depression, and they were randomized to receive either estradiol or placebo. So after 3 weeks, the estradiol group showed significant improvement in mood, while the placebo group did not improve at all. In the second study, they looked at the effects of estradiol withdrawal. It's a very interesting study. The women with a history of perimenopause depression were given estradiol. So when it was withdrawn, those with a history of depression experienced a relapse in symptoms. Now, women who did not have any depression history, when their estradiol was withdrawn, they really did not see any significant change. So what does this tell us is that the estrogen withdrawal can trigger depressive symptoms, especially in women who had a history of depression. So I think this is a very important point. So for some reason, if the woman needs to be taken off of their estrogen therapy, I think it's very, very important to know their mental health history. Now, are these studies small? Yes. Are they short? Very. They were like 3 to 6 weeks. So I'm going to summarize what we just talked about. So we talked about everybody agrees that women in perimenopause, menopause face increased high risk of depression. There's no controversy over there. And then we talked about short-term randomized control trial that shows efficacy of using exogenous estrogen, meaning estrogen coming from outside of your body, in minimizing depression in perimenopausal women. And then we also talked about that there are no conclusive studies demonstrating direct association between depression and sex hormone decline. So we have a long, long way to go before we find out the mechanism of action of perimenopausal depression. I hate to tell you this, but that is completely normal in the field of science. I mean, it takes years, decades sometimes to establish causation. But the real question is, do you want to wait until we have definitive science available to us? And that will probably take another 10, 20 years. I'm not even joking. I don't want to wait, honestly. I want to see what the available data is, where some data is pointing, what is anecdotal data, and and how my body reacts to these treatments. And then, working very closely with your practitioner, with your doctor, and navigating this phase. The last thing you want to do is just not do anything and get analysis paralysis, because there's so much information out there that it can be really hard sometimes to figure out your next step, because you see some people are saying one thing, the other group of people are saying completely opposite thing, and now you can see why, right? Because I just gave you example of these studies that's showing all different kinds of things, which again is a normal part of experimentation. But again, it will take some science. Now things might get expedited because of the AI. We have these machines that can process, analyze data. They have this predictive ability that's just so uncanny. So, instead of 15, 20 years, it might happen in 5 years. But again, your body will be a different body in 5 years. I just want to make sure that you understand that not every mood change in your 40s is because of the perimenopause. Now, before considering HRT, you need a proper evaluation. So here's a step-by-step guide to help you and your doctor make sense of what's really going on. You have to do a mental health screening. So you can ask your doctor, your practitioner, about PHQ-9. This is a questionnaire for depression, or GAD-7. This is the questionnaire that's used for anxiety. So again, there are simple questionnaires there that flag whether something deeper is going on. So that's number one. Number two will be ruling out medical causes, your thyroid disorder, B12 deficiency, or chronic stress or grief sometimes can also mimic depression. Number three, track your symptoms. Are they cyclical? Do they flare before your period? That's a clue that hormones are involved. Number four, be honest with your history. Now, if you had past depression, anxiety, talk to your provider who understand hormonal mental health. Only then should you and your provider uh, should explore HRT, SSRIs, SNRIs, or both as a treatment option. Now, let's talk about real life because it's not going to be my video if I don't give you some real practical tips to support your mental health and your well-being. So the number one thing that I'll tell you in this category is tiny timeouts, like a 5-minute breathing session before bed, or just a 10 deep belly breaths in your parked car. Number two will be respect your sleep. Girl, I know this is so hard. I mean, this is one area that I struggle, but it is so important. It's a game changer. I can tell a difference when I am being good, going bed on time, and when I'm not being good. So you know what, do whatever you need to, blackout curtains, white noise, cooling fans, um, etc. to keep hard boundaries around your sleep schedule. Number three, nutrition matters at this phase of your life. So protein with breakfast, think eggs, Greek yogurt, protein shake, and add one colorful veggie to each meal. Nothing fancy. Number four, journaling. That is very powerful. Now, if you have not tried it so far, please just give it a try. Just do it for 1 week. And it could be simple as today I felt blah blah because blah blah. That's it. You can just do 2 3 liners every day, and your brain will thank you for that emotional release. And before you know it, you never stop at 2 3 lines. You just, once you get started, you really start dumping, and you will see the change in just a matter of days. It's very, very useful. And then the final tip: talk to your doctor, talk to your provider, clinician. Your doctor have to determine the best course of action for you. The point of this video is to help you identify an issue if there's something going on in your life and you aren't even aware of that, and then encourage you to go and do something about it. Now, if you want to see an example of a successful doctor-patient consultation, click here.